Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this episode of Really Dicey. We're back to talk about Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This is Manny, and I'm here with Vander. And now we're going to talk about feats. There are 15 feats in here.
And yes, we'll be making commentary and we'll probably discuss a few that are like ones that we already know that we really enjoy. But for the most part, this is to give you a quick dive into each of them so that way if you don't have the book or just don't know how to get access to this stuff, you can at least like figure out how you want to build your character and maybe the extra little things you want. So we are going to just go alphabetically because guess what? That's how it's presented in the book. So our first option is the Artificer Initiate. And with that, you get a cantrip and one first level spell from the Artificer line, and you have to use intelligence for your spellcasting ability. So, preferably you're smart. Preferably. You can cast the spell once per long rest, and then you can also use your own spell slots if you have more. You also gain proficiency with an artisan tool of your choice, and that can also be used as the spellcasting focus for any spell you cast using intelligence. Basically, they're giving you ways to be a little bit of an artificer without giving you all the really awesome stuff that also artificers do. I like it. I don't think artificer has any unique spells or cantrips, but the idea of having like a tool set that's magical is fun, and that's probably the most unique thing about that.
I think this is great if you're an artificer and you want to learn more about artificer and you want to spend a feat to become even have more access to spells.
It's fair.
Um, or if you're a wizard and the story just calls for you um, to need these tools and you
Yeah.
now have a feat to do it. Because I don't know if you have this problem in Vander before, but sometimes I'll make a character and I'm playing and I realize that this character is not really right for the adventure and I wish I could change some things to fit it better. Um, so I think feats like this, like for the Artificer no,
Initiate.
initiate, initiate, Artificer Initiate.
The Avengers Initiative, yes.
Well, I think this feature, this feat it's good. I think it's gonna be a great tool for players.
Yeah, and I agree. And like again, you get an artisan's tool proficiency, which like there's so many different types that like you can really like maybe your character likes woodworking, maybe your character likes weaving, maybe they like glass blowing, and you can really like hone into that like special little thing about them. And yeah, I agree. That's really cool.
Chef, you gain get +1 to your Constitution or Wisdom. You get proficiency in cooking utensils, and pretty much you have the ability to make this meal. 4 plus your proficiency bonus, and the number of meals you can make, feed yourself and your players, and then after a short rest, you gain more hit dice. You gain an extra 1d8 hit points for your when you get a short rest. The mechanics of it's cool, but I just like the flavor of this more than that. The role playing aspect of it more to it. I just see like a cleric who is really into healing and good food and just using this to his or her benefit, or their benefit. I just think it's just a great, flavorful, potentially fun feat to have.
It is. I have a bard who I have one player in my Avernus campaign that plays two different bards, and they basically just keep getting switched out. And one of them is a chef, like that is one of his interests, and he has this specific feat, and he uses it very well. Whenever they're about to prepare for something, he has aid, he has this, he has all the things that like here's all your temporary hit point boosters right before we have a big fight, and like he knows how to play that character well, and it's great role play with him with food. It's like every time it's a because Avernus nothing tastes good, everything tastes bad. So he's a chef in Avernus where nothing can taste good. So his big goal is just try to make everything taste good, and like that's great.
Hmm.
So like I agree. I think that this is the most creative one. I wish they had more things that were like Constitution and fun based like this. Um, that's the only like bad side is that they don't have more things like this. But
Mm.
I agree. It's pretty darn awesome. Um, so each of the three melee damage types or martial damage types also has a feat. Crusher is for bludgeoning, and it works pretty darn well. +1 to strength or constitution up to 20. And once per turn, when you hit a character with bludgeoning damage, you can push them 5 feet. provided they are not one size larger than you. No more than one size larger than you. So you can push large creatures, you can't push huge creatures. When you score a critical hit, the attack rolls against the creature have advantage until the end of your next turn, or start of your next turn. So you are able to basically off balance this person, give them a headache. I love this for characters who like do once with like a dwarf with a warhammer. Like this is great. Like I love that they designed these. They were like, we need to give all the damaging types that aren't magical based a little bit of an extra something because none of them have it, and now they all do.
Yeah, I like these new feats because I feel like they they modify characters to what you expect them to be. You want your fighters to be, just like Hulk or Thor, like really, like they want to kick butt. So Crusher, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a great feat to have.
Our next one is Eldritch Adept. So, studying occult lore, you unlock Eldritch powers within. Basically, you get one Eldritch invocation from the Warlock class. If there is a prerequisite, you can only have it if you are a Warlock already who meets that prerequisite. So, as a Warlock, you can gain one extra invocation, and some invocations are really good and really powerful, so it might be worth it. Otherwise, as any other class, you can get this as long as you have spellcasting or pact magic already. So maybe you have even magic initiate. Maybe you have the magic initiate feat, and then you have this feat, and you just have that little bit of magic because you just want to know those few little things.
Mm.
Whenever you gain a level, you can replace the invocation with another one. So as you level up from say level 4 to level 8 to level 12, when you start gaining those new potential invocations, you can change them. Again, I think that's great.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's
I
I,
love it.
I feel the same way about it that I feel about the Artificer Initiate. That it's just something, another tool, so that if you want to either build upon your magic character, or you just want to just test it out. Like, you're just curious, like, all right, how would this work together? Or you're in a story where you feel like you need to have this to help advance your character. Yeah, I feel the same way.
We have the first of our, I think, two planar based feats, Fey Touched, against which is, I think, Shadow Touched is the opposite for Shadowfell. So you basically get some Feywild magic, +1 to one of your mental scores, intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. You automatically learn the Misty Step cantrip, not cantrip, spell, and you learn one first level spell of your choice. So Misty Step and one other spell. That spell has to be divination or enchantment, and you can cast each of these once without expending a spell slot. I swear I can talk. And then if you have more spell slots yourself, you can use them that way as well, and you get them back at a long rest. So they give you that little bit of that, almost like Eladrin magic, where Eladrins almost always have like Misty Step and that like that enchantment or divination capabilities. Plus, ability score increase. Can't say no to an ability score increase. Nothing crazy there, but still fun. If you just want the flavor of being from the Fae, you can add to it if you're human, if you're something else.
Yeah, I think that it's a good option, so that if you want to be of the Fae, but you don't want to be an Eladrin, because Eladrins tend to have that ability, the Misty Step ability, naturally. But if you just don't want to be an Eladrin, but you want to, what if you were a dwarf in the Fae, hanging out with Eladrin? Why shouldn't you learn how to do it as well? That, to me, it makes story sense. It makes perfect story sense.
Agreed. Next one, pretty simple. This is basically like if you want low grade to be a low grade fighter, you can get the Fighting Initiate, which is basically you just need to be proficient with a martial weapon, just one. Doesn't say anymore. So if you're a dwarf, you automatically can get this just because you automatically have Warhammer proficiency. But you get a fighting style. So once you get a fighting style from like the new stuff like blind fighting to and druidic warrior to the older stuff like more armor or defender or protector, protection fighting, you get that ability, and then every time you get an ability score increase, you can also replace that ability as your fighting style may change, which it's great. As someone who, like, I love the idea of just being able to get blind fighting as basically any class if you can make it work story wise, because I think that's a really fun story and technique driven capability that you have.
I could think only maybe Eberron's the only setting that has maybe gunners, but it's good that they have a feat there so that if you want to be trained as a gunner, it could work to your benefit. Um, again, this will increase your dexterity score by 1, maximum of 20. Of course, you get proficiency with firearms. You can ignore the loading property of firearms, and being within 5 feet of a hostile creature doesn't impose disadvantage on your range attack rolls, which I think that part is my favorite part about it. It's the most because I've if you there's been situations where I've been where you have a ranged weapon but you can't use it because you're too close.
Yeah,
But
happens a lot.
with having that gunner ability, that changes things, and I think that makes perfect sense if you have that feat. What do you think?
I love it, and this makes me like really like because you can be anything. Because fighters, because of again critical role, fighter because they made a gunfighter class specifically for fighter, the fighter class. Um, it's been kind of locked into that, but like I love the idea of this being like a rogue. Because can you imagine a rogue that just sneaks up behind somebody and just back of the head, like sneak attack damage, blowing out the brains of like it just like you can use this in so many good ways, and
Mm.
I'm excited to see it. Like a ranger like this with like a sniper rifle, like there's just a lot of great flavor that can come from this. So yeah, I'm on board.
Also,
100%.
I like that for third party books out there. They do, like there's some that have done like modern takes on using the 5e system, like Spy Game, um, or Cyberpunk a little bit. I've seen them use that system for that. Having Gunner as a feat helps um, third party creators have more options for their games.
Yeah, and be able to use modern age weapons, which like it's nice every once in a while. Maybe you aren't going full modern, but even if you're in the 60s, it's nice to use a pistol if a pistol exists. Next up, we have Metamagic Adept. Basically, you need spellcasting in general or pact magic specifically. You learn how to exert your will on your spells and how they function. So you get 2 metamagic options and 2 sorcery points. Um, when you do this, you basically get to use those things for whatever you want. You just got to pick your 2 magic options, and hopefully, if you aren't sorcerer, they only cost 1 or 2 sorcery points, or you're a bit of trouble. I know there's a couple that cost like 3 or more, so don't choose those ones. If you're a sorcerer, this is a great way to just get even more sorcery points, which you know, sorcerers just like monks get maxed to the number of their level, and like that's a finite resource, man. Like that runs out after a while. But I love it. I think it's a great add-on. It's a great little feature for like, especially for people who are like small magic users. Like if you're like an arcane trickster, I think meta magic is like a great little thing to be like, I got a little more capability.
Yeah, it again, just like the other two variations of this that we spoke about previously, for the Artificer and for Warlock. This again, if you want to dab a little bit of what sorcerers do and add that to your character, this is the way to do so. Yeah, I have no problem with this one. Just as I don't have any problem with the other two so far.
Okay.
Um, Piercer, which is very similar to Crusher, which you mentioned before that there's 3 of these types of damage here. Piercer is great. You can max your strength for dexterity by 1. You can re-roll you can re-roll your damage once per turn, which is crazy. So if you don't like what you rolled before, you could roll that again and just keep whatever you roll, you just keep. That's pretty crazy. But I also like that when you score a critical hit, you can add extra piercing damage. So if you were wanting to be like a musketeer or some sort of fencer, that feat would be the feat I would pick.
Yeah, that is perfect. I again keep thinking about rogues because I'm just like 1 more damage die, 1 more damage die. But yeah, like I like maybe you're a bard that is just really good with a rapier, and like this is perfect. And yeah, like you said, I love it. All the damage specific ones are great. Now, poisoner basically feels like the antithesis to chef.
No, I think
uh,
you're right. I think you're right.
which makes me happy, is that when you make a damage roll that deals damage, it ignores resistance. So you auto ignore resistance to damage in whatever case, which magically, great. Or if you are specifically using poison, also great. You can apply poison to a weapon as a bonus action instead of an action. And you have proficiency with the Poisoner's Kit if you don't already have it. You can make a decent poison that damages and gives the poison condition for like an hour worth of work, and I think 50 gold. Yeah, 50 gold. Which again, great. Like as again, this is rogue. I don't know why I'm thinking rogue for all of these. Maybe I just think rogues are really fucked up. That might just be it. But poisoner just like works really well, especially if you had the imagine having the chef thing and the poisoners thing, and you're just like making demonic food that poisons people. Like
That's not a bad idea.
I know it's evil. It's the dungeon master brain at work. I swear. Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. And like again, it's like where we have the Fey touched and then shadow touched, and we have like the different magical features, and then we have the different physical features. That it feels like that very weird antithesis to chef, that I just really want like characters that have both or that are playing both next to each other.
Yeah, shadow touched. Again, like you said, it's the opposite end of Fey touched. It's instead of you get you increase intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1, and instead of Misty Step, you get invisibility. So yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. I haven't played too many Shadow Realm or Shadow Dimension games in my games, but I know if I were to make an NPC, this is probably something I would pick for it.
Yeah, you also get the first level illusion or necromancy spell as well, which is nice, as opposed to the enchantment or divination one that you got with Fate Touched. So again, really good opposite. If you have that OC from your fanfiction days, that's half angel, half demon. This is you take Shadow Touched and Fey Touched, and you can make the perfect yin yang character of your dreams. It's great. Look, I remember those days.
Oh no, wow, you're bringing back memories. A lot of anime. Skill expert.
You get +1 to an ability score. You get a proficiency in one skill and expertise in one skill. I think it's very so for someone who like me who doesn't do stat sheets for NPCs but actually builds NPCs like characters. I think this is a good thing to round out a character who might be really unique or weird. Someone who works. Someone who is a bear shifter who also works at a clothing store. They have weird interests. They have sleight of hand, but they're also persuasive. But maybe there's not a class that lines up with that. But like I can give them skill expert, and it makes sense that they know both of these skills and they're good with these things. I think it's a great way to round out your character who's getting new skills. And maybe you don't want to grab just like the skilled feat and get 3 new skills. Maybe you want to be like, no, I'm excelling at being stealthy. I'm getting better at being persuasive, and I'm smarter. So +1 to intelligence. I think it's a good way to round out your character the way you want. Especially if you're a simpler person, if you're someone who like doesn't want like the super crazy like piercer or crusher feats where like you have to pay attention when you're rolling stuff, maybe you just want those numbers on your stat sheet to go higher. That's it.
No, yeah, great points, by the way. Because when I read this, I was compared to the other feats, it's not as like flashy, but the way you explained that, like, oh, that's great. There may be situations where your character, let's say you're stuck in the Underdark, you're gonna learn some new skills if you have to survive, and
Exactly.
especially if you're stuck there for a long time. So yeah, that's a great feat to have if you want to have your character survive certain situations.
Yeah, and say you have a new player who's just learning characters, and like the most basic characters you normally toss somebody in is like a really basic barbarian or maybe like champion fighter, where like there's not as much thinking if they like melee, and like you can give them this, and instead of them just getting stat increases, they can also get skill increases. So like, hey, you've been doing really great at fighting, but like you've also been hanging out with the rogue a lot. Maybe there's a reason that you're a little stealthier now. Maybe you're a little more persuasive because the bard keeps running his mouth around you and you're getting some of that. Like I think it leaves good ways to be influenced by the world or your party members, which
Hmm.
is why I like it. Again, it is really simple, like as opposed to the other ones we've read, which are crazy. This one's just like, yeah, I'm just getting better. My character is just getting better, and I think that's fine.
Slasher is very similar to Crusher and Piercer, but it's slashing damage instead. You increase your strength or dexterity by 1. Once per turn, you hit a creature, and when you deal slashing damage, you can reduce the speed of the target by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. And if you score a critical hit that deals slashing damage to a creature, you grievously wound it. Until the start of your next turn, the target has disadvantage on all attack rolls. Um, yeah, I of the three, Crusher's my favorite just because it just like looks cool. But Slasher can be very effective, especially if you're playing like rogues. Maybe you don't want the if you're in a situation where the bad guy's about to run away. This might help you in that situation.
Also, really good for like pole arm expert master people.
Mm,
Because like if you got like that giant glaive and you're just like slashing out people's knees so they can't chase you anymore, there's just a lot of good ways to use this to your bit. I just like the name slasher though because it like really makes me think you're just making a horror movie villain, and just like with like just an axe and just like which could be really fun.
the last two are telekinetic and telepathic, but let's focus on telekinetic first.
Yeah, go that
Um,
time.
you if you pick that feat, you increase your intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1. You learn Mage Hand cantrip, and you can cast it without verbal somatic components. And as a bonus action, you can try to technically shove one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. And when you do so, the target must succeed on a strength saving throw, DC 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus ability modifier increased by this feat, or be moved 5 feet towards you or away from you. It's you know uh, we've discussed before how like Sonics, I'm not feeling it, but it's like in general, I just Sonics and fantasy just, to me it's a hard sell depending, but it's as a mechanically it's fine. It's not doesn't overpower. You move small things with your mind, and you could push people for a bit, certain number of feet.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah, it's nothing crazy special. I'd say the one nice thing about it is that the moving someone as a bonus action, that isn't limited. It's not like you only have proficiency bonus as many times to do it. So you could technically do it like an unlimited amount of times if
Yeah.
you have the bonus actions to burn. So like it's not like incredibly useful, but I'm sure if you're a character who has this ability, you're going to find a reason to push people 5 feet for whatever reason it is, whether it's off a ledge or like push someone under a mistletoe at like a ball or something. Like you're gonna find the stupid reason to push someone 5 feet, and it's gonna be funny.
Yeah. The fact that you don't have to use verbal or somatic components, you can be tied up in jail, and if no one's watching, you can make the keys come to you.
Mhm. And it's invisible, which is great too. Like usually Mage Hand is visible, so like having it invisible is a really nice little boon. And then we have telepathic number 15. We did it, guys. We're at the end. Thank you for being here. We might split this into 2 videos. I don't know. But telepathic, weaken the ability to mentally connect with others. Increase wisdom, intelligence, or charisma by 1. You can speak telepathically to any creature within 60 feet of you, as long as they are in languages that the character, the NPC can understand, or other person can understand. They can't respond to you telepathically unless that's an ability they have. So basically, you are a voice in their minds, not the other way around. Yeah, so you get Detect Thoughts, and you get it once per long rest. So unlike Mage Hand, which you can just keep using, this one you only get once, but it does not require any components at all. And you use the same word. Wow. You use the same spellcasting ability that you increased with this score. So if you use Charisma or Wisdom or Intelligence, that is what you're using for your DC stuff related to that. I think it's nicer than Telekinetic in the way that Detect Thoughts is a very, very useful spell. And if similarly, you don't have to worry about anyone seeing it, like, or knowing that you're casting the spell, it makes it that much more useful.
What's your favorite? I'll allow you to pick two, but just to be fair, I'll go first. I
Sure.
like Chef. I thought Chef is fun. Has a lot of role playing flavor. I think you could take that feat and mix it with different classes, species, and just have some sort of really good encounters with it.
Yeah.
And But if I want something more aggressive, Crusher. I don't have dwarf characters that would love to have that feat right now.
It's literally made for people who use warhammers and mauls. Like it's made for them. It really is. Yeah, I think both of those are great. Those two would be in like my top, like probably 5 of these 15. My number one choice, because I've been using a lot, is Skill Expert. I really love the idea. I think, again, for simple or complicated characters, this is a really good way to show how you're increasing more than just like this one thing or this one thing, and it lets you really customize your character quite a bit with making customization simple. Sometimes customization can be too complicated, and I think that's the simple version of everything that's here. The second one, God, I like all. I'm gonna just say I like all these spellcasting light versions. So Artificer, Meta Magic, like I like those because I like the idea of getting that little bit of flavor of like you touched a stone you shouldn't touch, you messed with somebody you shouldn't have messed with, you drew a card that you shouldn't have drawn, and like this magic imbues itself to you somehow, or you learned it somehow. And I think it's great. I think the idea of those is great, and I'm glad they added it. So maybe multi-classing doesn't have to be as complicated for somebody.
Mm. All right, excellent. And I think we both agree that there was none of these feats were horrible. I think all of them are functional. All of them are flavorful for the most part,
Yeah.
and I think they're great. They're a great addition to Tasha's.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I love them. I think anytime you can give characters more options to make their character feel like their character, their individual person, the better. And these all do that in like flying colors. None of them are definitely overpowered. I wish there were some overpowered ones. I love having overpowered ones because then I give them to my NPCs and I fuck over my characters. There's not enough here for me to be evil with. It's really disappointing.
So viewers, let us know what are your favorite feats in the comments below. And yes, I hope you enjoyed this segment. And stay tuned as we talk more about Tasha as the weeks roll by. You take care and stay safe. Have a great day.